Welcome to Mr. Hansen Math. I'm Mr. Hansen. Let me help you with some math. Today we're going to learn about dividing fractions. Dividing fractions has one rule, but it includes multiplying fractions. I recommend you watch the multiplying fractions video. I'll put a link right here. That'll be very helpful to you to solve dividing fractions, because dividing fractions involves multiplying fractions, so you need to know how to do that first. So click on that link. It'll pause this video right where you're at. You go watch that video, come back, pick this up right where you're at. You don't miss time. So to divide fractions, you do one step. Invert and multiply. Invert and multiply. Well, what does the word invert mean? Invert means upside down. And if you Google images the word invert, you'll see a bunch of skateboarders upside down. Multiply just means multiplying your multiply fraction straight across if you watch my video. So let's divide some fractions. Let's say 1/2 divided by 3/4. 1/2 divided by 3/4. Guess what? I don't care. Invert and multiply. Well, what does that mean? That means take this number on the bottom, the fraction in the denominator, take this number, invert it. That means turn it upside down, and then multiply it straight across times the fraction on the top. So instead of 3/4, we're going to invert it, turn it upside down, 4/3. And then we're going to multiply. I'm going to put a little dot there indicating multiplication, and we're going to multiply straight across, SA straight across. So 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6. There's my answer. Dividing fractions, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's straightforward. The process is straightforward. Obviously, I need to simplify my fraction. That's going to be 2/3. We'll talk about that later in another video. Right now I'm just going to do it in my head. But that's it. Let's practice some more. Let's say 5/8 divided by 5/2. 5/8 divided by 5/2. Don't care. Invert and multiply. Invert and multiply. Now, you're going to hear some teachers say, flip the guy you're dividing by and multiply. I'll accept that. Flip the guy you're dividing by and multiply. A little rhyme haiku garbage. So flip the guy you're dividing by, 3/4 to 4/3. Flip the guy you're dividing by and multiply. It all rhymes and everything. Flip the guy divided by and multiply. I'm okay with that because it is the process. What I don't like is when people say like keep, flip, switch or whatever, like keep the numerator, flip the denominator, switch the operator from a divide to a... Holy cow. That has nothing to do with math. It has to do with some kind of trick that might work and maybe not. And don't do stuff that you don't understand is what I'm trying to say. If you hear your teacher saying that, don't say nothing. But do the math. Invert and multiply. That's not difficult. Upside down and multiply straight across. So 5/2, I'm going to invert that sucker to 2/5. 2/5, I'm going to multiply straight across. 5 times 2 equals 10. 8 times 5 equals 40. Simplify that to 1/4. You're done. You're done. That's it. Dividing fractions is not that bad. Okay, let's get into some negatives. Well, not yet. Let's do 1/5 divided by 1/10. 1/5 divided by 1/10. 1/5 divided by 1/10. Invert and multiply. Invert, instead of 1/10, I'm going to put 10/1. I'm going to multiply straight across. 1 times 10 is 10. 5 times 1 is 5. Simplify to 2. I'm done. I'm done. I do this all day. I've been doing this all day. All right, now some negatives. Negative 2/3 divided by 3/2. Negative 2/3 divided by 3/2. Invert and multiply. It's the same thing every time. I'm tired of saying it. 3/2. I'm going to flip it, so 2/3. Invert that, 2/3. Multiply straight across. Negative times a positive is a negative. Again, if you watch my multiply fractions video, you'd have no problem knowing that. Negative times a positive is a negative value. Negative times a positive. Actually, I'd probably watch my multiply integers video. It's also on my divide integers video. I put a little chart so you can memorize it. So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4, and 3 times 3 is 9. There's the answer, negative 9. Negative 4/9. Negative 4/9. That's it. Let's keep going. 7/2 divided by negative 3/2. 7/2 divided by negative 3/2. Invert and multiply. Yeah, but should I? No, you shouldn't. You should invert and multiply. That's what you should do. That's it. Negative 3/2. Invert. I'm going to put the negative on the numerator because that's where it belongs. You can put it in the front of the fraction. That's where some people put it. I mean, that's where computers put it, word processors. Nowadays, they oftentimes get it in the numerator, but for a long time, a lot of decades there, they could only figure out how to put it in the numerator, in the front. But I never put a negative in the denominator. Don't do it. You're going to miss it. You're going to forget it. It's unconventional. Nobody does it. It doesn't belong there. Keep your negatives in the numerator is what I'm trying to say. So invert the 2 and the 3. And then put the negative, keep the negative in the numerator. Now multiply straight across. Invert and multiply. 7 times negative 2 is negative 14. 2 times 3 is 6. Simplify that to negative 7/3. Negative 7/3. What if it's a negative divided by negative? What if you got here negative 5/6 divided by negative 10/3? Guess what? I don't care. Can you do this one already? Have you done it yet in your head already? Do you know the steps? I sure hope so. Invert and multiply. That's it. Invert and multiply. I'm going to invert 10/3 into 3/10. So 3/10. It's a negative number. It doesn't matter if it's in the numerator, the front, or the denominator. It doesn't matter where that negative sign is. You can move it. I always keep it in the numerator. So I'm going to keep the negative in the numerator. Then multiply straight across. Negative 5 times negative 3. Negative times a negative is a positive. Again, if you don't know this, if I'm just going way too fast for you, I laid it out very simply in my multiplying fractions video, my multiplying integers video. Very clear. Negative times negative is a positive. So that's positive 15. And then 6 times 10 is 60. Well, that's it for now. Never stop learning.